So this what if kind of came to my head just out of nowhere, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about and just place this on here. And that is the what if scenario of what if the White Walkers from Game of Thrones existed in Warhammer: The Old World, or just Warhammer fantasy in general. So yeah, just thought this would be kind of a fun what if. And honestly, like what the White Walkers are kind of a pretty cool idea. They're basically intelligent zombies that bring frost with them, and if they kill something, it comes back as a White Walker. And it's this unending plague that can only be killed by fire or decapitation or like special kind of metal stuff like that. And it all like if Game of Thrones hadn't fumbled the bag as hard as it did, could have been really cool to see that ending. But hey, it's the Game of Thrones season 8 ending. What do you expect? And also, like, I don't, like, I'm not even the biggest, I used to have, like, a big thing for Game of Thrones. If you've been on this channel long enough, you know I did have a lot of love for Game of Thrones, but I just fell off even before the end of the series. But there's still things I like about it, and I have done other what-ifs of having, especially mixing Westeros with the Old World. So I thought, since I've done a lot of like bringing something from the Old World into Westeros, let's bring a piece of Westeros into the Old World. And the White Walkers are probably the best kind of faction to really bring in here, because the White Walkers really do feel like a faction you would encounter in the Warhammer fantasy setting. They're undead, they're zombies, and they live in the far north. If anywhere, they'd be in the, like I said, let's say they're in the far north, and they're probably at war with Norska a lot. Like, the Norskins are probably throwing down with them the most, and thereby encountering chaos. Now, let's actually get this out of the way, since we're placing the White Walkers in the far north and fighting Norska. And also Kislev. Kislev would also be dealing with White Walkers, and they're already dealing with Norska. Now they got to deal with ice zombies. Could chaos corrupt? That's a big question we got to ask right now. Could chaos actually corrupt White Walkers? I really depends. I feel like chaos corruption doesn't really deal with the dead. The real ones that only deal with dead are, already chaos corrupted necromancers or vampires. The vampire courts, they're big on necromancy, and they have their own army of zombies. But I don't know if White Walkers have, because White Walkers don't really have a collective voice. It's more like just they're a plague. There are some who have intellect and things like that, but they aren't really intelligent enough, and I don't think they would have that kind of collective consciousness to be useful to the chaos gods. So I think if anything, they're just going to be the chaos gods are just going to be like, hey, Archaon, deal with that. So it would just be another faction that, like I said, the Norskins, and if they made it to Kislev's just going to be like, oh my god, what now? So, yeah. Now, if the White Walkers make it further south, they're obviously going to be a threat. They're already killing Norskins and Kislevites, and probably some Northern Clan dwarves as well, adding to the army, and whatever animals that belong to these factions. Those are also going to get assimilated as White Walkers as well. Now, could a demon become a White Walker? Let's actually go back to that. Could a demon, if it's killed by a White Walker, become one? No, I don't think that's the case. When demons die, they just go back to the warp. They just go back to they go back to the realm of chaos. They're not going to become White Walkers. So, yeah. So, if they made it further south, I think the Empire of Man would probably have a good time holding off. It's not like with Westeros, where they didn't have magic and everyone was kind of playing high school level politics. Here, the Empire of Man is a united front, led by the Giga Chad of true emperors of mankind, Karl motherfucking Franz. And Karl Franz and the Empire of Man have faced far worse. If anything, you've got magic, you've got wizards who will just say a couple spells from the Book of Sigmar, and they will instantly drop dead. Yeah, the White Walkers are don't get me wrong. I do think the White Walkers would be a massive threat in some parts of, like, Osterland's probably going to get fucked for a bit. But that's Osterland. They always get fucked. No, Ulstermark, excuse me. Not Ulsterland. Ulstermark is going to get fucked no matter what. But then they probably will be like just this silent wave coming about, killing in the name, killing in the darkness of winter, increasing their numbers, even like adding beastmen. Like, I do think the White Walkers would slaughter their way through beastmen and resurrect them as White Walkers as well, and trolls and other beings. That's what makes them so dangerous, is that they can just increase their numbers by a good amount. Here's the thing, though. The Empire of Man has got wizards, it's got their own necromancers, they've got their own set of warriors and capability, and unlike the people of Westeros, a lot of these factions are united. I also thoroughly believe that, you've got elves, you got the wood elves, who will probably, like, even though it's winter, they'll probably turn a forest into a death trap for them, and you got the dwarves, who will probably be raining death from above. You've got the vampire counts, which I don't know. Could a vampire become a White Walker? I'm going to say yes, because they could just die and be resurrected, where, as opposed to the Chaos Forces, they would just die and go back to the warp. You could have, White Walker Skaven. You could have multitude. The thing of it is that the White Walkers are kind of easily beaten. Yes, their numbers are going to be a threat, but the thing is, it isn't like with the vampire counts where they have an intellectual force behind them. Or, yes, the numbers they'll just make the dead more of their army. But again, Westeros didn't have the same kind of weaponry that the different various factions of the old world have. These guys, there's magic, there's weaponry that is crafted from gods. And the biggest thing is, it's a united front from the get-go. Even if the White Walkers fight their way through Kislev and, Norska and whatever demon forces they encounter and make it further south into the Empire of Man, they're gonna run into an army that is a well-forged force, and one that is a fully united front, and they're probably gonna have some allies too, in the forms of elves and dwarves, and depending on how far you get. The other one is, I don't know if they would get that far. Like, for term of argument, I don't think a Tomb King can come back as a White Walker. They're already, like, Vampire maybe. Tomb King, I don't think there's enough there to make into a White Walker. But then again, I've seen, like, White Walkers resurrect rotting corpses, so it's a tough one. But definitely, like, they'll be increasing the thing is, they just have big numbers, but they aren't real. Numbers can be diminished, especially if you have, like, a good enough army. And yeah, the White Walkers. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the White Walkers could be a threat in the old world. I'm just saying, like, they're a more manageable threat. Like, they are a threat that can be managed, because there's so many forces and factions and ways to deal with something, because they've dealt with it. Because most of these factions have dealt with threats that are very similar to White Walkers. So, yeah, the White Walkers suffer from big fish in little pond. Now you are a fish in a big pond. Yeah. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you think it would be like if the White Walkers existed in Warhammer the Old World? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time, the Multiverse.